No one could ever explain why Ellie didn't turn. No one. Not even the most experienced Firefly doctors. Not Joel, not Marlene, not even her mother, Anna. But what everyone did know was that Ellie was different. She had something no one else did. Something that defied everything they thought they understood about Cordyceps. But what if I told you it wasn't an accident? What if Ellie's immunity wasn't some miracle, but a carefully buried experiment? Anna was a nurse, a close friend of Marlene, who would go on to lead the Fireflies. Before the world fell apart, they both worked in medical environments. But once the infection hit and the world became a concrete graveyard, their paths turned darker. Anna didn't just save lives, she became obsessed with understanding how to defeat the fungus. And her pregnancy? It wasn't exactly typical. Many believe Anna was bitten right before giving birth. In fact, the HBO series shows her being chased by an infected as she goes into labor, giving birth to Ellie while still attached by the umbilical cord. She manages to kill the infected, but the damage is already done. Anna's been bitten. She knows her time is up, and she knows her baby has been exposed. But something extraordinary happens. Ellie doesn't get sick. The fungus, already spreading through Anna's body, begins to invade her system, but just barely reaches Ellie, who's still connected by the cord. That micro-exposure triggers something unexpected. Ellie's immune system doesn't fight back like it would in anyone else. Quite the opposite. It stays calm. It adapts. It symbolically joins with the fungus, as if the Cordyceps thinks she's already infected. So it leaves her alone. This is exactly the explanation the scientists in the HBO show suggest. Ellie produces a chemical signal that tricks the fungus into thinking she's already colonized. No alarm, no immune reaction. Just a silent truce between host and parasite. Like her immune system is saying, there's no threat here. Years later, when Ellie is bitten at the mall with her friend Riley, she still doesn't turn. But Riley does. That's when Marlene realizes just how important Ellie really is, and brings her to the Firefly doctors. But it's not that simple. Medical records from St. Mary's Hospital describe something unique. Ellie does have cordyceps in her body, but it isn't spreading. She shows no symptoms, no fever, no swelling, no immune response. It's like the fungus and her body have struck some kind of biological ceasefire. Some test results reveal something even more disturbing. Her white and red blood cell counts are so low that, by normal medical standards, Ellie shouldn't even be alive. Unless the cordyceps inside her is different. And that's where things get interesting. Game theorists proposed a bold idea, that Ellie is infected with a different fungal strain, Tulipocladium inflatum. This fungus exists in real life and is used to create cyclosporin, a powerful immunosuppressant used in organ transplants. In other words, Ellie may be infected with a variant that suppresses the immune system, prevents inflammation, and at the same time, blocks more aggressive strains of cordyceps. And there's more. Recent real-world research suggests this strain can interfere with specific cellular pathways, silencing mechanisms that normally trigger an inflammatory response. It's like the fungus isn't just living in Ellie, it's protecting her, acting as a kind of biological camouflage. That might explain why, even after multiple bites, like the one in Santa Barbara, Ellie still doesn't change. Sound far-fetched? Maybe. But hear me out. There are more clues hidden throughout the game. At Eastern Colorado University, Joel and Ellie find recordings from former Firefly scientists. One of them, nearly insane, admits their last real breakthrough happened 5 years ago, the year 2018, exactly when Anna was pregnant. Coincidence? I don't think so. That same year, in some hidden lab, someone may have attempted the most dangerous experiment of all, creating a child selectively exposed to cordyceps. Maybe it was Anna's idea, driven by her medical obsession. Or maybe it was a desperate last gamble in a world on the brink. Marlene knew. That's why she watched over Ellie from the shadows. That's why she didn't let anyone experiment on her as a child. That's why she said, "This is what you've been looking for." She didn't just mean Ellie, she meant Anna, the cause they both believed in. And that's why she was willing to authorize the fatal surgery. because she truly believed that by extracting the fungus from Ellie's brain, they could reverse it, create a vaccine, a miracle in the form of a little girl. But Joel didn't let that happen. To him, Ellie wasn't a cure. She was his daughter, and for her, he killed. The doctors, Marlene, everyone. Was that selfish, or was it human? Now here's the darker part. There are other theories, and they're far less romantic. Some fans believe Anna was bitten on purpose, that her pregnancy was part of a plan by the Fireflies, that Ellie was designed to be a living vaccine. In fact, in the game's comics and documents, it's suggested that Anna knew she was going to die. Her farewell letter makes it clear, "My life is about to be cut short." But what if she already knew that would happen? What if her death wasn't a tragedy, but part of the plan? Another theory says Marlene and the scientists knew Ellie was immune from the beginning, that they were just waiting for the right moment to sacrifice her. That's why they kept her at a distance. That's why they never told her the full truth. That's why they treated her like a resource in storage. Still not convinced? Try this. Why is Ellie the only one who's immune? Why aren't there others like her? One possible answer is simple, because no one else was infected the way she was. No other baby was exposed in the womb to a tiny, controlled dose and lived to tell the tale. Or maybe they didn't live. Maybe there were other attempts, other pregnancies, other Annas. But Ellie was the only one who survived with the fungus inside. Or maybe the only one who unknowingly became the cure. Maybe that's why Marlene said, "This isn't about you or her, it's about what she represents." In the end, the mystery remains. Maybe we'll never know if Ellie's immunity was an accident, a gift, or a sacrifice. But one thing is certain. She's the only one. The only person who survived what ended the world. And that makes her more dangerous than the fungus itself. Because the real threat isn't always what destroys our bodies. It's what shatters our beliefs. Ellie doesn't just survive Cordyceps. She survives the questions no one wants to ask. How far are we willing to go for a cure? How much pain would we justify for a shot at hope? What are we prepared to lose, to avoid losing everything? Now imagine the ethical dilemma. Should one life be sacrificed to save millions? Marlene thought so. She was ready to break a sacred promise to her dying best friend, because she believed the end justified the means. But was Ellie really the cure? Or just the desperate hope of a dying species that needed something to believe in? Cordyceps, once it mutated in humans, didn't just destroy civilizations. It changed our very understanding of what it means to be alive. The infected, still walking, still functioning, posed a question science can't fully answer. When does a person really die? And so what is Ellie? A survivor? An experiment? The next step in evolution? Some believe Ellie isn't immune. She's the beginning of something new. Her body doesn't fight the fungus. It integrates with it. The Last of Us might not be about the end of humanity at all, but the birth of something else. A hybrid species, part human, part fungal, able to thrive in a post-apocalyptic world not by killing the fungus, but by living with it. Let's go back to Anna, a skilled nurse surrounded by scientists, driven by desperate ideas. It's 2018. The world is falling apart. At Eastern Colorado University, monkey trials are failing. Resources are drying up. And someone proposes something terrifying: build immunity from birth. It wouldn't be the first time humanity crossed bioethical lines. In our own world, we've seen it. Tuskegee, radiation experiments on prisoners, countless cases of human testing without consent. In desperate times, science often ignores ethics in the name of the cause. In The Last of Us, that idea takes form in Ellie. Born to a mother who was exposed, raised under Marlene's silent watch, oblivious to her purpose, until the Fireflies decide to dissect her. Because being immune wasn't enough. They wanted to know why. They wanted to replicate it, scale it, turn her into a living instruction manual for making a cure. But what if you can't replicate her? What if Ellie is one of a kind? The surgeon who was going to operate, Jerry, Abby's father, understood the stakes, and even he knew there were no guarantees. The procedure could fail. It might accomplish nothing. And Ellie would die, For nothing. Joel didn't let that happen. And in doing so, he didn't just save a life. He destroyed a possibility. The world will never know, but you and I do. And that leaves us with one final question. If you were Joel, would you have done the same? What if Ellie was never the cure? What if her true purpose was to challenge the boundaries of our morality? Because Ellie is the paradox of salvation, is it worth destroying a person to save humanity? And now think about this. What if the Cordyceps evolved? What if it got smarter, more subtle? What if Ellie isn't the end, but the beginning? What if other children are born like her? What if the fungus is creating resistant hybrids? What if Ellie's immunity is just step one toward a new species? One that doesn't see Cordyceps as a disease, but as something essential. Season 2 is already hinting at it. New Cordyceps variants, faster, smarter, more strategic. It's not just a plague, it's an emerging intelligence, an adaptive system. And if Ellie is the only one who can live with it, maybe it's because she's no longer entirely human. Humanity wants a cure, but nature doesn't care about saving us. It only wants to adapt. And in that process, Ellie might just be the seed of a new world. One where humans are no longer fully human, where our idea of life and death changes forever. In the end, The Last of Us was never a story about zombies. It was a story about choices, about love, and about how much we're willing to sacrifice to keep from losing it all. Ellie is the answer to a question we don't even know how to ask yet. And maybe that's why she's still alive.